Ethan Carter would never forget the blank stare of Madison Blake as she coldly placed the plastic-wrapped sandwich in front of him, a gesture that seemed small, but made him feel the chill seep into every breath within the cabin. He, a 50-year-old CEO of a multi-billion-dollar airline conglomerate, Diamond Platinum Elite, had traveled the world, sat in the most luxurious flights. Yet he had never experienced the sensation of being so completely invisible. His perfectly tailored black suit, neatly knotted tie, the soft yellow light reflecting across his face like a still life painting, belied the rapid beating of his heart, each pulse registering the injustice spreading around him. Madison's 29. Eyes avoiding contact, lips pressed tight, walked between the rows of seats with a fake smile for the other passengers, as if he were air, as if he did not exist. Ethan exhaled not in anger, but from familiarity with being overlooked, a feeling he had encountered in polished boardrooms, where power hides behind courtesy. He opened his tablet, the screen illuminating his calm yet tense face with cold light, and sent a message to Sarah, head of compliance, initiating a quiet investigation, a strategy he called the quiet trace. No words were spoken yet in his mind. Each line of data formed a network, every behavior recorded, every glance accidental or deliberate stored away. The plane hovered over the skies of Chicago, the city lights twinkling beneath the wing, and Ethan felt acutely that he stood in the midst of an invisible battle where justice required no shouting, only observation, patience, and decisiveness. With each passing minute, Madison continued to ignore him, attending to other rows, laughing with colleagues, and Ethan saw in these small actions a larger picture, emerging a sophisticated system of discrimination concealed beneath the politeness and protocol of premium service. He recalled tense meetings where figures worth billions of dollars were presented, yet true value lay in the ability to see each individual, every tiny detail that others easily overlooked. Ethan noted every detail, time, location, behavior, attitude, gaze. Each piece of information was a fragment of the picture he was constructing, a picture only those who observed deeply could fully comprehend. While other passengers enjoyed their dinners chatting animatedly, Ethan sat still, composed, but with a mind in turmoil. Every heartbeat a reminder that real power does not reside in fame or position, but in the ability to act at the right moment, to see what others refuse to acknowledge, and to transform it into genuine change. He looked at Madison once more, noting her pressed lips, her averted gaze, realizing these small behaviors were not accidental, but the product of an environment trained to render those unlike them invisible. Ethan did not feel anger. He understood that anger would only waste time, and he had no time to waste. He pressed send on a preliminary report, time-stamped every detail, preparing for the next step, a silent yet precise strike against a system where those who abuse power believe themselves above all rules. The plane continued to glide through the dark sky, city lights, flickering like dots on the map of the journey Ethan was charting. Every passenger, every crew member, every small gesture was noted, analyzed, and incorporated into a system. Only he understood, a system whose potential strength was immense. Ethan drew a deep breath, feeling calm spread through his body, each minor detail, now a tool, each overlooked moment, now evidence. He knew that when the plane landed in Los Angeles, no one would notice him. No one would know that the quiet actions had already begun to shift the order in the cabin. Yet it was this invisibility that gave true power. Madison continued to move through the aisle, still careless, still cold, but Ethan no longer felt overlooked. He felt powerful, not through shouting or prominence, but through patience, observation, and timely action. In Ethan's heart, a quiet determination ignited not merely to correct a small fault, not merely to warn an individual, but to create change throughout the entire system so that no one would ever feel invisible as he once had. The evening flight, the plastic-wrapped sandwich, Madison's cold gaze, all became material for Ethan to write a story of power justice and the vision of a man who stands amidst silence, yet produces profound impact. The plane glided through the dark clouds over Illinois, the soft yellow cabin lights reflecting on Ethan Carter's calm but tense face. He did not speak a word, showed no sign of anger, yet his mind raged silently, like a storm, every heartbeat, every breath measuring, calculating a sophisticated strategy that only those deeply versed in power could discern. His tablet glowed lines of data from the cabin gradually appearing, and Sarah replied in a calm but firm tone, reporting incidents involving Madison and the other crew members, ignoring passengers of color, uneven service, fake smiles, reserved for those they chose to notice. Ethan did not need to look back. His eyes remained fixed on Madison as he observed her laughing and exchanging pleasantries with other rows, recognizing that each seemingly small action was part of a system meticulously trained to render those unlike them invisible. He leaned forward, fingers sliding across the screen, time-stamping every detail the time Madison passed by, her averted gaze, how she placed trays, how she ignored his eyes, all recorded, analyzed, arranged like pieces of a puzzle only he could see in full. Other passengers laughed and talked as the plane shook lightly when the wing cut through air currents. Yet Ethan remained composed, each minor detail becoming evidence for a larger model, a pattern Sarah began to analyze. Other flight attendants exhibited similar behaviors, ignoring minority passengers while maintaining a veneer of politeness to avoid reprimand. Small lapses, minor gaps in service, had formed an invisible network, a chain of behavior that would go unnoticed if one were not astute. Ethan recalled boardrooms bathed in white light, where power was measured in billions of dollars. Yet he understood that true strength lay in the ability to notice the details, to listen to what was overlooked, and to turn them into action. He pressed send on a preliminary report. All data time-stamped, each detail, cross-checked with historical records, past evaluations of Madison and the other crew members' assessments, once ignored, but now more important than ever. Ethan felt his pulse quicken as he realized that injustice existed not only within a single cabin, but throughout the entire system, where minor behaviors had been trained to conceal, to protect the image of premium service. He glanced around, seeing a young couple chatting cheerfully, an elderly man dozing, all unaware of the silent battle unfolding right before them, a struggle between silence and justice. Madison continued to move down the aisle, her fake smile still in place, but Ethan knew that every step, every averted glance, every seemingly trivial act was being observed, recorded, and each detail would contribute to profound change. Sarah reported further on other flight attendants. One ignored passengers in the third row, another provided uneven service when someone requested water. Individually, these actions were not reprimand-worthy under regulations, but when placed within the larger picture, Ethan saw a system programmed to render those of different skin color or social class invisible, and it was precisely this invisibility that created sophisticated injustice. Ethan did not feel anger. He felt responsibility and power as a silent sword cutting through the network of quiet complicity, every recorded action a strike aimed at the structure, trained to uphold inequity. He closed his eyes, drew a deep breath, taking in every detail, the light on the tray, the rustle of sandwich wrapping Madison's smile, the subtle gestures of her colleagues, all transformed into data, all becoming tools for change. He knew that when the plane landed in Los Angeles, no one would see him. No one would know these quiet actions had begun to create impact. Yet he remained calm, composed, for he understood that real power did not need prominence, did not need to shout. It came from the ability to observe, to be patient, and to act at the right moment. Minute by minute, data from the cabin continued to flow, every behavior, every glance, every fake smile, every act of neglect, all recorded, analyzed, arranged into a panoramic picture only Ethan could see. A picture revealing a sophisticated system of discrimination hidden beneath layers of courtesy and protocol. He looked at Madison one last time, seeing her still moving down the aisle, her gaze still averted, and realized that the invisibility she wielded was the very power he was about to confront. But now the power was his, the power of observation, the power of recording, the power to create change without anyone noticing. Ethan exhaled calm, returning each heartbeat, a testament to his resolve, not merely to correct a single individual, not merely to warn a crew member, but to change the entire system so that no one would ever feel invisible again. And justice would prevail. In the cabin, passengers' chatter, the subtle vibration of the wings cutting through air, all became the soundtrack of a silent investigation, where Ethan was the conductor, and every minor action, a note leading toward the crescendo of fairness, where silence produced impact far deeper than any shout. Ethan tapped a few more buttons on his tablet, the data continuing to analyze preliminary reports prepared to send to the executive team, everything unfolding quietly, yet precisely, like a dance of power, visible only to the keen, and within him, a strong determination ignited to change the system, to protect the invisible, to transform silence into the voice of justice. Ethan Carter remained motionless, his eyes following every movement in the cabin, every seemingly small gesture of Madison Blake, every fake smile, every averted glance, all meticulously recorded in the analytical system he and Sarah were operating. Data flowed rapidly, each behavior time-stamped, each ignored action, every overlooked request becoming living evidence for a sophisticated model that most people would never notice. Ethan clearly saw the repetition of patterns: a flight attendant passing by a passenger of color without acknowledgement, another crew member serving quickly, but only to white passengers. Madison bent to pick up a tray, her gaze flicking past Ethan, without pausing, an invisible nod, confirming that the system was still operating according to its script. Every minor action, every silence became data, and he understood he was facing an invisible network of discrimination concealed beneath refined politeness that few would detect. Ethan felt his heart pounding, each beat a moment of awareness, each breath a testament to his determination. He could not let these actions go unnoticed. He had to create impact, and his power did not lie in voice, but in observation, analysis, and silent action, all controlled through the glowing tablet. Past information from Madison's personnel file and other crew members was cross-referenced with current behavior. Every prior evaluation flagged every act of neglect, connected into a pattern, and Sarah continuously updated reporting to Ethan that at least 5 crew members were exhibiting the same pattern, ignoring passengers of color, providing uneven service, yet maintaining a polite appearance to avoid reprimand. Ethan took a deep breath, sensing the tension, but also the power within him. He felt as if standing atop a mountain, looking down at the full panorama, each tiny detail forming a larger picture, and he knew that when the plane landed, this data would become a tool to drive change, to warn and to reshape the entire service system. Madison passed him once more, her gaze averted, her hand trembling slightly as she carried the tray past other passengers, but Ethan saw every detail, felt every gesture, every motion, and observed the scripted repetition of behavior throughout the entire crew. He noted, time-stamped, organized and analyzed, every minor detail, the clatter of trays, the fake smile, the averted glance was stored as a behavioral map, each piece significant, each detail integral to the system, change plan Ethan was executing. He realized that this silent power was stronger than any shout, precise, invisible, yet so effective that no one could deny it. Sarah sent additional information. Another flight attendant had 2 previous evaluations, noting uneven service. Another crew member ignored a passenger requesting water. Ethan connected all these small behaviors into a comprehensive model, revealing a system operating to render passengers of different skin color invisible, and he knew that this silence would no longer persist. Ethan felt the power in his hands. He did not need to shout, did not need to be prominent, only data observation and a quiet strategy. The cabin light flickered on trays, reflecting across his face, and Ethan looked at Madison once more, seeing her laugh casually with another passenger, but her gaze still avoided him. The invisibility she created was now observed, recorded, and transformed into a tool. He felt the silence around him as a thin veneer, but inside was a storm of data strategy and quiet power, and within him, determination ignited not only to record Madison's and the other crew members' behaviors, but to change the entire system so that no one would be overlooked, so that every passenger would be treated fairly. Minute by minute, Sarah updated. Ethan analyzed the model, becoming clearer. Each small action, the unfilled glass of water, the averted glance, the fake smile placed in its proper position within the larger picture. Ethan drew a deep breath, feeling the power of observation, the strength of creating silent change, and he knew that when the plane landed in Los Angeles, these actions would no longer be ignored, no longer invisible. Madison and the other crew members would face the reality that the system they relied on had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for change. Ethan looked out the window, seeing the city lights twinkle beneath the wing, sensing the moment of quiet power transfer, where silence and observation created an impact stronger than any shout. He knew that what he was doing was not merely correcting individual behavior, but creating a turning point for the entire system, protecting the invisible and placing justice above all. Each small detail, every overlooked action, every averted glance had now become a tool of power, and Ethan, calm yet resolute, continued to record, timestamp, and analyze, preparing for the next step in his silent but powerful plan for systemic change. Ethan Carter felt every subtle vibration of the cabin as the plane glided through the thick layers of clouds over California, the soft yellow light casting across his face, reflecting the calm exterior, while inside a storm of data raged, a storm he controlled with each precise pulse. Madison Blake continued to move between the rows of seats, a fake smile on her lips, her eyes avoiding the passengers she chose to ignore each step, a part of the behavioral map Ethan was charting. Every small detail was recorded in the analytical system. Actions that once seemed accidental now formed pieces of a larger model, revealing sophisticated discrimination invisible to most. Ethan tapped a few more buttons on his tablet, data continuously updating, and Sarah sent the latest report. Another flight attendant had ignored a passenger of color requesting water. Another served quickly, but only to passengers she chose to notice. Madison had moments where she ignored Ethan's requests, yet attended to passengers in the rows ahead, all creating a repeating pattern, a system trained to render those unlike them invisible. Ethan realized this system did not exist solely within the cabin, but reflected a deeper mechanism where power was shielded by politeness and subtle injustice concealed by smiles and protocol. He felt each heartbeat as a reminder that silence was not complicity, but a tool, each breath a measure of power, and each small gesture became evidence, each minor detail a spearhead in the plan he was executing. Ethan's gaze swept over other passengers, an elderly couple holding hands, tightly a boy, intently looking out the window, all unaware of the silent battle unfolding in the cabin, a battle between silence observation and justice. Madison passed again, placing a tray onto the cart, her eyes briefly meeting Ethan's before quickly averting. Every minor detail was recorded, time-stamped, analyzed, and connected to past data, transforming previously invisible behaviors into part of the larger picture Ethan was gradually completing. Sarah updated further. Madison had 2 previous evaluations, noting uneven service. Another flight attendant had similar records. Ethan looked at the numbers. The data, each small action, placed in its proper position within the behavioral map, every seemingly insignificant piece becoming living evidence of a deliberately constructed system of subtle discrimination. He saw the connections, the repetition, the finesse with which they maintained politeness to avoid detection, and he knew this was an opportunity to transform observation into action, silence into power, and fairness into results. The cabin lights flickered, reflecting on trays on the tablet across Ethan's face. Every small action, the clatter of a tray, a fake smile, an averted glance, becoming data, all becoming tools, every overlooked moment, now evidence of an unjust system. Ethan felt the strength in his hands. He did not need to shout. He did not need prominence. Only observation, analysis, and timely action. Minute by minute, data continued to flow. Each behavior, each glance, each smile, each act of neglect connected into a network, and Ethan saw the full picture emerge, a system operating to render passengers of different skin color invisible those who were overlooked, and he knew that his power would transform all of this into change. Madison moved along, still careless, still cold, yet Ethan knew that each step, each averted glance, was now recorded, analyzed, and would create impact. He drew a deep breath, feeling calm spread through his body, each heartbeat a testament to silent power, and he recognized that this silence was stronger than any shout, precise, quiet, yet effective. When the plane landed, the network of unjust behavior the crew had created would no longer be invisible. Ethan pressed send on a preliminary report, time-stamping every detail, each gesture, each moment, all prepared to be delivered to the executive team, all serving as evidence for the system change plan he had envisioned long ago. The lights outside the window flickered beneath the wing, and Ethan sensed the moment of power, the impact created through silence and observation. Each small action, each passenger's, each crew member, became part of a larger picture, a picture of justice, of fairness, of the ability to stand and change a system. He looked at Madison once more, seeing her casually smile at another passenger. But now the invisibility she created no longer existed. Ethan had recorded, analyzed, and transformed it into a tool of power, silent yet strong, and within him, determination ignited not just to correct individual mistakes, but to change the entire system, to protect the invisible, and to place justice at the forefront. Every small detail, every overlooked action, every averted glance had now become living proof of the power of observation, silence, and strategy. Ethan Carter sat still in his business-class seat, the cabin lights flickering across the cold meal tray before him, but his mind swirled like a tornado, each line of data on his tablet updating continuously. Every behavior, every glance, every fake smile, every overlooked moment was recorded, time-stamped, and analyzed. Madison Blake continued to move between the rows of seats, her gaze avoiding certain passengers, a smile on her lips. Yet all these small details had now become pieces of the larger picture. Ethan was constructing a map of a sophisticated network of injustice the crew had trained to render passengers they considered unimportant invisible. Ethan watched every gesture of Madison, noting how she bent to pick up a tray, how she poured water for other passengers while ignoring him, how she joked and chatted with those in the rows ahead. All of it became data, all of it evidence for a systemic model. And he knew his power lay in recording, analyzing, and acting silently. Each heartbeat struck strongly, each deep breath a reminder of responsibility. Ethan felt calm spreading through his body, but inside his mind, a whirlwind of thoughts and strategy connected every detail Madison's past evaluations other crew members overlooked, behaviors, fake smiles, averted glances, moments of silence, all forming a comprehensive model, a picture only he could see, one exposing a subtle system of discrimination hidden beneath layers of politeness. Sarah sent further updates. At least 5 crew members were exhibiting the same pattern, ignoring passengers of color, while maintaining politeness to avoid reprimand. Ethan felt the power in connecting these pieces. Each small behavior had become part of a map of authority, each tiny detail a tool to transform the entire system. Madison passed him again, placing a tray onto the cart, her eyes briefly flicking toward him, but quickly averting. Ethan did not need her to notice. Everything had been recorded, analyzed, and arranged. Each small action now served as evidence for a silent but powerful system change plan. Light from the window reflected on the tablet and across Ethan's face. He looked over other rows, an elderly couple holding hands, a boy intently gazing out the window. None of them realized the silent battle unfolding before them, the struggle between silence observation and justice. Madison laughed with another passenger, yet her gaze didn't meet Ethan's. The invisibility she created had now been observed and transformed into a tool. He recorded, time-stamped, analyzed, and arranged every overlooked detail, the clatter of a tray, a fake smile, an averted glance, all placed precisely within the overall model he was completing. He realized that this silence was stronger than any shout, precise, quiet, yet effective. When the plane landed, unjust behaviors would no longer be invisible. Data from the cabin continued to flow. Ethan analyzed each action, each glance, each smile, each slight neglect, connecting them into a network, a panoramic model of the subtle discrimination the crew had trained. Madison moved along, still careless, still cold, but that invisibility had now been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for change. Ethan drew a deep breath, feeling the power of observation, of silence, of strategy. Each heartbeat testified to silent strength. Every overlooked action had become a tool. He looked out the window, city lights twinkling beneath the wing, sensing the moment of power, where silence and observation created impact. Each small behavior, each passenger, each crew member became part of a larger picture, a picture of justice, of fairness, of the ability to stand and change a system. He pressed send on a preliminary report. All data had been time-stamped, every minor detail stored, and within him, determination ignited, not just to record individual behavior, but to change the entire system, protect the invisible, and place justice above all. Every small detail, every overlooked action, every averted glance had become living proof of the power of observation, silence, and strategy. Ethan knew that true power did not require prominence, did not require shouting, only the ability to observe, to record, and to act at the right moment. When the plane landed in Los Angeles, every act of injustice, every invisibility would face reality. Madison and the other crew members would realize that the network they relied on had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for change. Ethan remained calm, composed, knowing that silence creates strength, observation creates power, and each small detail had now become a tool to turn silence into justice. Ethan Carter kept his eyes fixed on the cabin, every tiny detail like a heartbeat of the entire system. Each behavior, each glance, each fake smile was recorded, analyzed, and placed in its proper position within the panoramic picture he was gradually completing. Madison Blake moved between the rows of seats, her gaze avoiding contact lips pressed tight, yet all these seemingly casual gestures had now become living evidence. Each step she took was a piece of the sophisticated injustice model Ethan was exposing. Data continued to stream in from his tablet, Sarah sending constant reports, overlooked behaviors, ignored requests, smiles given to other passengers but not to him, all time-stamped, categorized and connected with historical records and current behaviors to form a complete network. Ethan examined closely and saw the pattern 5 other crew members exhibited the same sequence of actions, ignoring passengers of color while maintaining polite appearances to avoid reprimand. Madison bent to pick up a tray, her eyes flicking past Ethan without pausing, attending to other passengers joking with colleagues. All these seemingly small actions were now observed, recorded, analyzed, and integrated into the overall picture. Ethan felt his heartbeat quicken each breath, a pulse, each glance, a probing strike. Each minor behavior had become a tool of power. He understood that true strength did not come from shouting or prominence, but from insight, from the ability to see what others overlooked. The cabin lights flickered on the tablet on the tray on Ethan's face, reflecting the silent power he wielded. Madison passed by again, placing a tray onto the cart, her eyes briefly meeting his before quickly averting. Yet Ethan did not need her awareness. Everything had been recorded, analyzed, and arranged. Every small action had now become proof of silent authority, every minor detail a tool to transform the entire system. Sarah sent additional information. Another flight attendant ignored a water request. Another served unevenly to passengers of color. Ethan connected all the pieces, forming a comprehensive model, a panoramic view of the subtle but deliberate discrimination concealed beneath politeness. He felt each detail as living fragments. Every glance, every smile, every overlooked moment became part of the larger picture. He recalled the luxurious boardrooms where power was measured in billions of dollars. Yet now he understood that real power lay in noticing the details, listening to what was overlooked, and turning them into action. Minute by minute, data continued to update. Ethan analyzed, connecting every behavior, every glance, every fake smile, every ignored moment into a network, a model only he could see in full. Madison continued moving, still cold, still careless, yet the invisibility she created was now observed, analyzed, and transformed into power. Every overlooked moment became a tool. Every minor behavior became evidence. Every detail, a silent weapon to change the system. The lights outside the window flickered beneath the wing, and Ethan sensed the moment of power, the impact that silence and observation created. Each small behavior, each passenger, each crew member became a piece of a larger picture, a picture of justice, of fairness, where power did not need to shout, only insight, observation, and quiet strategy. Ethan pressed send on a preliminary report, all data time-stamped, every minor detail stored. Madison passed by again, a fake smile on her lips, her gaze averted, yet that invisibility no longer existed. Ethan had seen it, recorded it, and transformed it into a tool to protect the invisible and place justice first. Every small detail, every overlooked action, every averted glance had now become living proof of the power of observation, of silence, and of strategy. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the silent power spreading through his body, each heartbeat, a testament to quiet strength. He knew that when the plane landed in Los Angeles, every unjust behavior would have to face reality. Madison and the other crew members would realize that the network they relied on had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for change. Ethan remained calm, composed, knowing that silence creates strength, observation creates power, and every small detail had now become a tool to turn silence into justice. Every minor behavior, every averted glance, every fake smile was no longer invisible but living evidence of an impending transformation across the entire system. Ethan stood amid his silent power, and within him, determination ignited to change the entire system, to protect the invisible, and to place justice above all. Each small action, each glance, each smile was now evidence, a tool, a weapon to create profound impact. He continued to observe, analyze, and connect every detail, every behavior, until the full picture of the unjust network became clear, so that when the flight landed, his silent authority would begin creating irreversible change. Every small detail had become power, every overlooked action, a voice of justice, and Ethan, calm but resolute, continued recording, time-stamping and analyzing, preparing for the next step in his silent but powerful plan for systemic change. Ethan Carter remained seated, the cabin lights reflecting across his calm but tense face, every tiny detail in the airplane cabin becoming the heartbeat of the entire system. Each behavior, each glance, each fake smile, every overlooked moment was recorded, time-stamped, and analyzed. Madison Blake moved between the rows of seats, her gaze avoiding contact, lips pressed tight, a fake smile serving as a thin veil. Yet all of it was meaningless before Ethan's penetrating observation. Every small gesture had now become living evidence, each minor behavior forming a piece of the comprehensive model of the sophisticated injustice the crew had trained to render passengers of different skin colors invisible. Data continued to update Sarah, sending constant reports about other crew members. One attendant ignored a water request from a passenger of color. Another served quickly, but only those passengers she chose. All these seemingly minor actions now connected into an overall model, a picture only Ethan could see. He felt his heartbeat quicken, each deep breath, a testament to silent power, each small action now a tool to change the entire system. Madison bent to pick up a tray, her eyes flicking past Ethan without pausing, attending to other passengers joking with colleagues. Every moment was recorded, analyzed, and organized, all becoming part of a silent but powerful system change plan. The light outside the window flickered beneath the wing, and Ethan sensed the power of observation, silence, and strategy. Every small behavior, each passenger, each crew member became a piece of a larger picture, a picture of justice, of fairness, where shouting was unnecessary, only insight, the ability to record and timely action, mattered. Ethan looked at Madison again, seeing her casually laugh with another passenger, yet her gaze didn't meet his. The invisibility she had created was now observed, recorded, and transformed into a tool. Every overlooked moment became evidence, each small behavior, proof, every detail a silent weapon to change the system. Data continued to flow. Ethan analyzed every behavior, every glance, every smile, every act of neglect, connecting them into a network, a panoramic model of the subtle discrimination the crew had trained. Madison moved along still careless, still cold, yet that invisibility no longer existed. Ethan drew a deep breath, feeling the silent power spread through his body, each heartbeat a testament to quiet strength. He knew that when the plane landed in Los Angeles, all unjust behavior would have to face reality. Madison and the other crew members would realize that the network they relied upon had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for change. Ethan remained calm, composed, understanding that silence created strength, observation created power, and each small detail had become a tool to turn silence into justice. Every minor behavior, each averted glance, every fake smile was no longer invisible, but living evidence of an impending transformation across the entire system. He pressed a few more buttons on the tablet, data continuing to analyze preliminary reports, prepared for the executive team, all unfolding quietly, yet precisely, like a silent storm sweeping through the system. Each small behavior, every averted glance, each fake smile had now become a weapon for change. Ethan, calm but resolute, continued to record timestamp and analyze, preparing for the next step in his silent but powerful plan for systemic change. He knew that when the plane landed, his power would begin to create irreversible impact. Every small detail had become strength, every overlooked behavior a voice of justice. Ethan continued to observe, analyze, and connect each detail, each action, until the full picture of the network of injustice became clear and was no longer invisible. As the wheels of the plane touched down on the runway in Los Angeles, Ethan Carter remained seated, his gaze calm, but his mind taut like a drawn bow. Every detail of the cabin played out in his mind like a map. Each behavior, each glance, every overlooked moment had been recorded, analyzed, and arranged into a comprehensive picture of the network of injustice the crew had trained to render passengers of different skin colors invisible. Madison Blake walked past him one final time, a fake smile on her lips, eyes avoiding his. Yet it no longer mattered, for every action had been observed and transformed into a tool by Ethan. He rose from his seat and moved into the VIP lounge, where 3 airline executives awaited him, their expressions a mixture of worry, hesitation, and mild surprise at seeing Ethan appear calm, as though stepping out of a boardroom rather than from a high-tension flight. Apologies and explanations poured out from them, their words attempting to lessen responsibility, but Ethan only listened. His eyes penetrated every hint of sincerity or concealment, every pause in their speech recorded in his mind, as if each word were a piece of the picture he had built during the flight. Each explanation, Each suggestion for retraining the crew, each seemingly reasonable plan, was now just part of the power game Ethan controlled. He knew his objective was not Apollo, not their apologies or shallow commitments, but to change the entire system, ensuring that passengers who had been rendered invisible would no longer be overlooked, that every minor behavior, every averted glance, every fake smile would face justice. Ethan drew a deep breath, feeling silent power spread through his body, each heartbeat a testament to quiet strength, every small action a weapon for change, each tiny detail now evidence. Madison stood nearby, still casual, still cold, but that invisibility had been broken. Ethan looked across the table at the executives' tents as they tried to manage the situation, unaware that it was too late. The system they relied upon had been fully understood by Ethan. Every behavior, every glance, every smile had been recorded, analyzed and connected into a comprehensive model, a panoramic picture only he could see. Ethan said nothing, only looked at them, his gaze calm but piercing, silencing the lounge. Their apologies now amounted to nothing more than background noise in the silent battle Ethan had already won since the plane had taken off. He knew true power did not lie in shouting or prominence, but in the ability to observe, to record, and to act at the right moment. The light in the lounge reflected on his tablet on the meal trays across Ethan's face, all reflecting the silent power he wielded. Madison stood close, her gestures still natural, but meaningless. Every overlooked moment had now become evidence of impending change. Ethan pressed a few more buttons on the tablet, preparing the final report for the executive team. Every small behavior, every glance, every smile was no longer invisible, each minor detail now living proof of the power of observation, silence, and strategy. The three executives looked at him, flustered, trying to propose solutions, but Ethan knew they could not undo what had already occurred. The network of unjust behaviors had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for transformation. In that moment, Ethan felt true power. His silence had created a silent storm, profoundly impacting the entire system. Every small behavior, every averted glance, every fake smile was now living evidence of change. Ethan exhaled, calm but resolute, each heartbeat a testament to silent strength. Madison moved along, still casual but powerless. Every minor action had become a tool, each detail a weapon. Ethan, calm yet determined, continued preparing the next step, turning silent power into tangible change, protecting the invisible, and placing justice at the forefront. Each small behavior, each glance, each smile had now become living proof of the strength of insight, the power of observation, and the effectiveness of his silent strategy. Ethan Carter stood in the VIP lounge, the flickering light reflecting across the polished table, every detail from the airplane cabin, every small action of Madison Blake and the other crew members still playing in his mind, like notes in a silent symphony of power. Every averted glance, every fake smile, every overlooked moment had become a piece in the comprehensive picture of subtle injustice he had recorded, analyzed, and connected into a complete systemic model. Ethan felt his heartbeat quicken, each deep breath a reminder of responsibility. His power did not come from shouting or prominence, but from insight, observation, and silent action. Madison stood nearby, still casual, still cold, yet the invisibility she had created was now broken. Ethan looked at the airline executives, seeing their worry, their tension, their attempts to control the situation, unaware that it was too late. All data had been recorded, analyzed, and arranged. Each small behavior, every glance, every smile had become evidence of his silent authority. Ethan pressed send on the final report. every minor detail, time-stamped every overlooked action, now evidence for a plan to change the entire system. The light in the room reflected off his tablet, the trays and his face, all reflecting the power he wielded silently. Madison moved along, a fake smile on her lips, her gaze averted. Yet her invisibility was useless. Every behavior had been recorded and prepared for change. Ethan drew a deep breath, feeling the silent power spread through his body, each heartbeat, a testament to quiet strength, every small action, now a tool to transform the entire system. He looked out the window, city lights twinkling beneath the wing, sensing the moment of power, the impact created by silence and observation. Each small behavior, each passenger, each crew member had become a piece of the larger picture. A picture of justice, of fairness, where silent authority began to shift the balance. Ethan looked at Madison once more, seeing her casually laughing with another passenger, her gaze still avoiding him. Yet all had been recorded, analyzed and connected into the full picture. He pressed a few more buttons on the tablet, data continuing to be analyzed, preliminary reports prepared for the executive team. Every small behavior, each glance, every smile had now become a tool to change the entire system, protect the invisible, and place justice first. The three executives looked at him, flustered, trying to propose solutions, but Ethan knew they could not undo what had already occurred. The network of unjust behaviors had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for transformation. Ethan stood amid his silent power. Every overlooked moment had become strength, each small action, a tool, every minor detail, a weapon to create profound impact. The flickering light on the tablet on the tray across Ethan's face beat like the pulse of silent authority. Every small behavior had now become a tool to change the entire system. Madison moved, casual but powerless, every action now living evidence. Ethan remained calm, but resolute, each heartbeat a testament to silent strength. He knew that when he left the lounge, the network of injustice the crew relied on would no longer exist. Madison and the other crew members would have to face the reality that their behaviors had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for change. Ethan remained composed. Every minor detail, every overlooked action, every averted glance had now become proof of the power of insight observation and silent strategy. He knew true power did not require prominence, or shouting, only the ability to observe, to record, and to act at the right moment. Each small behavior had now become a voice of justice, every averted glance, every fake smile living evidence of system-wide change. Ethan felt the moment of power as his silence created a quiet storm, profoundly impacting the entire system. Madison moved, casual but ineffective, every action, now a tool, each detail a weapon. Ethan continued to record timestamp and analyze, preparing for the next step in his silent but powerful plan. Every minor behavior had now become strength, each small detail living proof of silent authority, and within him, determination ignited to protect the invisible place justice first and transform the entire system. Ethan stood there, calm but resolute, every detail, every action, every glance, now evidence of the strength of insight observation and silent strategy. Ethan Carter stepped out of the VIP lounge, his footsteps echoing lightly on the polished floor, the flickering light reflecting across his calm, yet sharp face. He felt silent power spread through his body, every small behavior, every averted glance, every fake smile, now living evidence of the strength of observation, of silence, and of strategy. Madison Blake stood at the end of the room, still casual, still cold, Yet the invisibility she had once wielded had vanished. Every minor action, every overlooked moment had been recorded, analyzed, and connected into a comprehensive model of the unjust system the crew had created. Ethan looked around, seeing the three executives tense, anxious, trying to regain control, but they could not reverse what had already happened. Every apology, every explanation, every retraining plan was now only formality, because the network of behaviors had been fully understood by Ethan. Each small detail had become a tool of power to change the entire system. He drew a deep breath, feeling his heartbeat strong but steady, each inhalation a testament to silent authority, every minor action now a weapon to protect the invisible and place justice first. The light outside the window reflected on the tablet on the tray across Ethan's face, all pulsing like the heartbeat of silent power. Madison moved along, casual but ineffective. Every small behavior had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for change. Data from the cabin continued to flow, and Ethan connected each behavior, each glance, each fake smile into a network, a comprehensive model only he could see. Every overlooked moment had become living evidence of the power of observation, of silence, and of strategy. Ethan felt a surge of authority as every small behavior, every glance, every smile now lay within his control, each minor detail now proof of unstoppable change. Madison looked at him, a fake smile still on her lips, her gaze averted, yet meaningless, as all had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for transformation. Ethan stepped into the terminal hall, feeling silent power radiate through him, each heartbeat a testament to quiet strength, every small action now a tool to change the entire system, to protect the invisible, and to place justice first. He observed the passengers around him, curiosity and confusion in their eyes, yet none recognized the silent battle that had just unfolded in the cabin and VIP lounge. Ethan smiled lightly, not with pride, but with the understanding of silent power, knowing that justice required no shouting, only observation recording and timely action. Minute by minute data continued to be analyzed. Every small behavior, each glance, every overlooked smile became part of the larger picture, a portrait of a sophisticated network of injustice now exposed. Madison moved along, casual but powerless, every small behavior now a tool, each detail a weapon to transform the system. Ethan continued forward, calm but resolute, each heartbeat a testament to silent strength, every overlooked moment now a voice of justice, each averted glance, each fake smile, living proof of his quiet authority. The flickering light on the tablet on the tray across Ethan's face pulsed like the heartbeat of power. Every behavior had become strength, every detail living proof of irreversible change. Ethan knew that as he stepped out of the lounge, the network of injustice the crew had relied upon would cease to exist. Madison and the other crew members would have to face the reality that their behaviors had been recorded, analyzed, and prepared for change. His silent authority began to spread every small detail, every overlooked behavior. Now strength, every averted glance, every fake smile, living evidence of system-wide change. Ethan continued to observe, analyze, and connect each detail, each action, until the full picture of the network of injustice became clear. Every small behavior had now become power, every detail living proof of silent authority, and within him, determination ignited to protect the invisible, to place justice first, and to transform the entire system. Ethan stepped out of the VIP hall, calm but resolute, every detail, every behavior, every glance, now evidence of the strength of insight, of observation, and of his silent strategy. Each minor action had now become the voice of justice, each averted glance, every fake smile, living proof of change. And Ethan knew that his silent power had begun to spread, impacting the entire system, unstoppable, irreversible. A transformation had begun and would continue to expand, protecting the invisible and placing justice at the forefront. Each detail, each behavior, now living proof of the silent power Ethan commanded. From the perspective of an expert in organizational culture and power management, Ethan Carter's story reveals a profound truth. Real power does not come from prominence, shouting, or billions of dollars, but from the ability to observe, to see clearly, and to act at the right moment. When a person knows how to notice the small details that others overlook, listen to invisible voices, and turn them into action, their influence becomes stronger than any public display of authority. Ethan demonstrated that systemic change does not need to be loud. With patience, a quiet strategy, and unwavering determination, a single individual can profoundly impact the entire operational system, protect the vulnerable, and place justice first. This is an important lesson for all leaders. Fairness is not a gift, but the result of seeing, clearly recording, and acting. If you believe in the power of silent authority and the value of keen observation, press like to support inspiring stories like this. Subscribe to avoid missing future journeys, exploring corporate culture, power and justice, and share your thoughts by leaving a short comment saying, "Seen you to help spread the message that every correct action, no matter how small, can create significant change within a system, elevate human value, and foster a fair environment where every voice is heard and every individual is seen." This is the silent yet enduring power, and it is the message this story seeks to convey to each viewer. See clearly, act, and create change, for even silence, when used correctly, can become the strongest voice of all.